No one was looking for him when he disappeared. That fact would hurt more than the accident itself, long before he understood why. The man who would later be identified as a missing millionaire, a powerful executive, and the subject of a nationwide search, woke up confused, injured, and completely stripped of identity on a thin mattress inside a small rural house. He didn't know his name. He didn't know his past. And for the first time in his life, no one was waiting for him to perform, decide, or lead. The ceiling above him was low, made of old wooden boards darkened by time. Thin lines of morning light slipped through the cracks without permission. The air carried unfamiliar smells: wet soil, burned firewood, and something simple simmering slowly nearby. This was not a hospital, not a hotel, not a place designed for comfort. Pain answered when he tried to move. Not sharp pain, but deep, spreading pain, the kind that reminds you your body exists even when your mind refuses to cooperate. His muscles protested as if he had slept on the ground for days. His head throbbed with a dull pressure that made thinking difficult. He closed his eyes, trying to organize his thoughts. Fragments came: a road at night, heavy rain, headlights slicing through darkness, a sudden loss of control. Then nothing. When he opened his eyes again, he realized he wasn't alone. A young woman stood near a simple wood stove, stirring a pot with calm, practiced movements. Her clothes were worn but clean. Her hair was tied back without concern for appearance, the kind of look worn by people who have no time to impress anyone. Two boys slept on a mattress in the corner of the room, covered with an old blanket pulled up to their shoulders. The man tried to speak. No sound came out. He swallowed, his throat dry, and tried again. Where am I?" His voice sounded hoarse, unfamiliar, as if it belonged to someone else. The woman turned immediately. She didn't scream, she didn't rush, she didn't panic. She looked at him the way people who live far from chaos look at problems, directly, without exaggeration. "In my house," she said calmly. "You collapsed near the road last night." House. The word didn't match what he saw. The space was small, sparse, barely enough for a family, let alone a stranger pulled from the dirt road. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Anna," she replied. "And you were unconscious when I found you." He tried to sit up. Pain stopped him halfway. "Easy," Anna said, lifting her hand slightly, careful not to touch him yet. "You hit your head. You need to move slowly." He took a slow breath, forcing himself to stay still. "I need to call someone," he said after a moment. Anna tilted her head. "Who?" The question was simple and terrifying. His mind searched desperately for something solid, a name, a face, a number, anything. There was nothing. I don't know," he said quietly. Anna studied his expression. This wasn't confusion, it was fear. "You don't remember anything?" she asked. "Just pieces," he replied. "Rain, a car, that's all." She nodded slowly. "There was no car when I found you. Just you." That information landed heavier than he expected. He lifted his hand to the bandage wrapped around his head, his fingers trembling slightly. "Why did you help me?" he asked. Anna answered without hesitation. "Because no one deserves to die on the side of the road." There was no heroism in her voice, just certainty. Something shifted inside him. In the life he couldn't remember, that answer would never have been enough. There would have been calculations, risks, consequences. Here, there was only humanity. She poured tea into a chipped mug and helped him sit up carefully, placing a thin pillow behind his back. "Drink slowly," she said. He wrapped both hands around the warm mug. "Thank you," he whispered. Anna nodded. "You can stay until you get better." "I don't have money," he said automatically, the words coming out before he could stop them. Anna shrugged. That's not the most important thing here. For the first time in his life, even without remembering it, the man had nothing to offer. No power, no status, no influence, just his presence. And he didn't know if that would be enough. Alexander Cross had everything. Absolute power, endless money, a life built on control. But on that rainy night, nothing was under his command. The car moved too fast along the empty road. Rain slammed against the windshield, and inside it, Alexander was not running from enemies. He was running from his own choices. Minutes before the impact, one phone call changed everything. A voice, an accusation, a truth poorly hidden. Alexander tightened his grip on the steering wheel, accelerated, and failed to see the curve. The impact was violent, metal against metal. The car spun, the world went dark. When Alexander opened his eyes, everything was white. Bright lights, the smell of disinfectant, a distant sound of machines. He tried to move. He couldn't. A woman stepped closer to the bed. Tired face, simple clothes, attentive eyes. She spoke carefully, as if afraid of breaking something fragile. Alexander tried to answer, but the question came before his name. "Who am I?" The doctor exchanged a quick look with the woman. The answer came heavy. Alexander had lost his memory. In the following days, important people began to appear. Lawyers, executives, men in expensive suits, all of them claimed to know him. All of them spoke about companies, numbers, urgent decisions, but none of them spoke to him as a human being. Alexander recognized nothing, not the names, not the faces, and most of all, not himself. Only one person stayed, the woman in simple clothes. Her name was Emily. She demanded nothing, asked no questions, spoke nothing of money. She simply stayed. When Alexander woke up, frightened at night, Emily was there. Alexander did not know yet, but that woman was part of the life he had destroyed. And forgetting was the only thing that had kept him alive until that moment. Lucas learned early how to watch, not because someone taught him, but because he had to. Children who grow up around absence develop different senses. Lucas could hear his mother's tone before her words, see exhaustion in her eyes before she yawned, notice fear hidden inside small gestures. He remembered his father, not clearly, but in fragments. The smell of sweat and earth, a laugh that was too loud. A man who promised too much when he was close and disappeared when real life demanded something back. His father didn't leave on a day of fighting, he left on an ordinary day. That was the hardest part to accept. Lucas was 6 when he saw his father put a few clothes into an old backpack. There was no argument, no long goodbye. Just a quick kiss on Tiago's head. "Hey, I'll be back soon," tossed into the air, and footsteps walking away down the dirt road. Lucas stood frozen in the doorway. He waited. Days, weeks, months, until the day he stopped waiting. From then on, he took on a silent role. He didn't replace his father, no child can, but he became the house's guard. He watched strangers, distrusted promises, measured words. Anna noticed, but never said it out loud. Because mothers know when their children grow up too early. Tiago grew differently. Tiago remembered little of his father, just enough to miss him, not enough to resent him. He asked where his father was the way a child asks about someone who is late, not absent. "When is he coming back?" he would ask sometimes. Anna always answered the same way. When he can, it was true, but not complete. Their childhood was built from small adjustments. Clothes passed from one brother to the other. Notebooks reused. Toys improvised. Anna never let school fail. Almost anything could be missing, except that there were hard days. Days when Lucas pretended he wasn't hungry so Tiago could eat more. Days when Anna cried, hidden away in the bathroom. Days when the silence in the house felt too loud. And still, there was love. Not the easy love from movies, the persistent kind of love that doesn't make noise. When John arrived, Lucas went on alert immediately. Men arrive, men leave. That's how it worked. Lucas watched John in the first days like someone assessing risk. He noticed John didn't ask invasive questions. He didn't give orders. He asked permission even to help. That confused Lucas. Adult men didn't ask permission. Tiago, on the other hand, grew attached quickly. Not because John was special, but because he listened. He sat on the floor. He answered simple questions without sarcasm. One night, Tiago asked something that lingered in the air for a long time. "John, why did my dad leave?" John didn't answer right away. He looked at Anna. She gave a small nod, silently. Sometimes, John said carefully, people leave not because they don't love, but because they don't know how to stay. Tiago thought about it. "Do you know how to stay?" John felt his chest tighten. "I'm learning," he said. Lucas heard everything in silence. That night, he took a long time to fall asleep. Not because he trusted John, but because, for the first time in a long time, he considered the possibility that not every adult who arrives has to lead the same way. And that was frightening, because hope, when it grows in dry soil, hurts before it grows. John discovered that the body keeps memories the mind forgets. During the first days of truly helping, exhaustion came too fast. His arms ached, his back protested. His hands trembled after tasks that, for Anna, were simply part of daily life. He didn't complain, but his body revealed everything. The first time he tried to clear a larger section of land, he stopped halfway. He sat down on the ground, breathing heavily, sweat running down his face. Anna watched from a distance, not with judgment, with understanding. "You don't need to prove anything," she said after a while. John took a deep breath before answering. "I need to prove it to myself." She nodded. "Then learn to respect the body's timing," she said. "The land doesn't accept hurry." Those words stayed with him. The next morning, John woke up sore in muscles he didn't even know existed. Still, he got up, not out of heroism, out of choice. Lucas noticed. "You won't last," the boy said bluntly. John smiled. "Maybe not today." Lucas watched closely when John asked him to show how to fix part of the fence. "You don't give orders?" Lucas asked. "Not here," John replied. "Here, I learn." Lucas said nothing, but something shifted in his eyes. Tiago liked following John around. He didn't help much, but he kept him company. He commented on everything. Asked simple questions that sometimes hit deeper than expected. "John, why didn't you have calluses on your hands before?" John looked at his fingers, now rough. Because I worked more with my head than with my body. And now my body is teaching me things my head never understood. Anna listened to these conversations from afar. She noticed John wasn't trying to take control. He wasn't turning the countryside into a project. He didn't give grand ideas. He simply worked and made mistakes. One day he dropped a bucket of water. Another day he tied the fence wrong. Another day he cut himself lightly and had to stop. Anna cleaned the wound in silence. "This isn't punishment," she said while tying the cloth. "It's learning." John nodded. "I spent my whole life paying not to feel this," he replied. Anna paused. "And did it work?" John thought. No. Days began to take on a different rhythm. John no longer woke up just out of habit. He woke up with intention. He watched the sky before going outside, learned to read the weather, understood when the land needed rest. Lucas began to trust him more, not through words, through actions. When he handed over tools without being asked, when he explained without sarcasm, when he corrected without humiliation. Anna realized the house felt different, not lighter. That still scared her, but more stable. One afternoon, heavy rain forced everyone inside. Water hit the roof hard. Mud swallowed the road. They sat around the table. John watched Anna divide the food with near mathematical precision. It bothered him. "We can make it stretch more," he said. Anna looked at him. "Here, everyone learns that early. It shouldn't be like this," John replied. Anna sighed. "The world doesn't ask what should be." John stayed silent. But something settled inside him. That night, a memory returned, not a scene, but a feeling. The constant need to command, to decide for others, to not listen. He realized that in the countryside, everything worked differently. Those who don't listen, fail. Those who rush, lose. Those who command too much, break. And that changed him in a way money never had. From a distance, Lucas came to a quiet conclusion. John didn't seem like someone waiting to leave. He seemed like someone learning how to stay. John began to understand that memory does not return like a movie. It comes back as weight. They were not organized scenes with a clear beginning and end. They were sensations, discomfort, guilt without captions. Sometimes, a name would surface and disappear too quickly to hold. One morning, while fixing part of the roof with Anna, something cut through his mind with enough force to make him stop. A tall office, glass walls, air conditioning too cold. A man speaking fast on the phone, himself, John. Anna called, noticing the change. He took a moment to answer. "I remembered how I used to talk to people," he finally said. Anna waited. "I didn't listen," he continued. "I interrupted, I ordered, I pressured." She nodded. "And does that bother you now?" John climbed down from the ladder slowly. "A lot." He sat on a rough wooden bench. "I thought being hard meant being efficient," he said. "I thought emotions got in the way." Anna stayed silent, but her eyes showed she knew that kind of man. "I made people lose their jobs," John went on. "Not because they were bad, but because numbers didn't work out." Anna took a deep breath. "You weren't the only one," she said. "But that doesn't remove your responsibility." John nodded. "I know." One afternoon, John had a dream unlike the others. He didn't wake up sweating. He didn't wake up afraid. He woke up ashamed. He dreamed of a woman in a luxury apartment saying something important while he answered messages on his phone. He dreamed of a child he couldn't see the face waiting for attention that never came. He sat up in bed, his chest tight. For the first time, he realized he might have lost more than memories. He might have lost people. Anna noticed the change the next day. "You're quieter than usual," she said. "I think I hurt too many people to remember everything without it hurting," he replied. She thought for a moment. "Pain teaches too," she said. "The problem is when we run from it." From then on, John did something different. When a memory surfaced, he didn't push it away. He didn't try to stay positive. He stayed with it. He sat down. He breathed. He accepted it. Lucas watched this closely. "You get strange sometimes," the boy said. "How so?" "It looks like you're apologizing on the inside." John swallowed hard. "Maybe I am." One day, the memory came back whole. Not a fragment whole. John was driving at night, irritated after a disastrous meeting. His phone kept vibrating. He answered, yelled, hung up. He didn't see the curve properly. Rain, loss of control, the accident. He stood still for a long time after the memory returned. The past was not a distant villain. It was himself. Anna sat beside him without touching him. "You'll remember now," she said. "I do," he replied. "And I don't like it." She looked at him firmly. No one changes by liking what they see first. John took a deep breath. "I have a family," he said quietly. Or I had. Anna didn't ask more. She knew when silence was more honest than questions. That night, John sat alone on the porch for hours. He thought about what he would do when he left. He wondered if he deserved to return. He wondered if he could truly be different. Lucas came out quietly and sat beside him. "You're really leaving, aren't you?" the boy asked. "I am," John answered honestly. "But will you come back?" John hesitated. "If I come back, it won't be the same." Lucas nodded. "That's fine," he said. "Just don't become the man who runs away." John felt the weight of that. It wasn't a request. It was a warning. While John was relearning how to exist in silence, the world he had left behind was collapsing. His prolonged absence stopped being a curious headline and became a serious problem. Investors demanded answers. Partners pressed for decisions. His family faced cameras every single day. He wouldn't disappear like this without a reason. People kept saying, but no one had explanations. Inside the company, meetings piled up without resolution. Decisions were postponed. Numbers fluctuated. Confidence began to crack. John's name started circulating not just as a mystery, but as a risk. Lawyers discussed scenarios. Board members spoke of succession. People who had always depended on his presence were forced to realize how much everything revolved around a single man, and that realization frightened them. John's wife slept poorly. She wandered through the house that felt far too large, reliving old absences that now seemed permanent. She didn't cry in public. She cried alone, when no one was watching. He was always distant. She once said to a friend, "I just never thought he would disappear for real." John's adult children, raised more by staff than by presence, felt something unfamiliar. Late guilt, unanswered messages, ignored invitations, conversations postponed that now might never happen. Meanwhile, investigators covered highways, hospitals, hotels. The wrecked car was found. No body. "He's alive," someone concluded. The search intensified. Helicopters flew over rural areas. Police cars passed through small towns. Informants appeared. Rumors spread. That was when real danger emerged. A man showed up at the countryside asking too many questions. He wasn't police. He wasn't a neighbor. He spoke too politely. He observed too carefully. Anna noticed immediately. He wanted to know if we'd seen anyone different. She told John that night. John felt his stomach tighten. "And what did you say?" he asked. "The truth," she replied, "that almost no one passes through here." John stayed silent for a moment. "If this gets worse," he began. "Don't finish," Anna interrupted. "Just tell me, are we in danger?" John took a deep breath. "Maybe." Lucas overheard the conversation from the doorway. That night, he slept poorly. For the first time, he felt real fear, not only that John might leave, but that he might stay. Strangers kept appearing in the following days. Cars driving slowly past the house, people asking questions, a distant helicopter that felt too intentional to be coincidence. The countryside, once invisible to the world, was now being noticed, and that was never a good sign. John understood it was no longer just about him. Anna and the boys were entering the impact zone of a life they had never chosen. "I need to leave," John said one night, his voice heavy. Anna nodded slowly. "I know. Not now," he continued, "but soon." Lucas clenched his fists. "Are they going to hurt us?" he asked directly. John knelt in front of him. "Not if I leave first," double quotes. Tiago clung to his mother, frightened. Anna stayed firm on the outside, but inside, she felt the weight of something familiar, the fear of losing someone again just after they had arrived. "I don't regret it," she said. "Helping you." John swallowed hard. "I'll carry this with me," he replied. "Always." That night, John didn't sleep. Sitting on the porch, he heard the distant sound of an engine, then another, then silence. He knew the world was getting closer, and so was the final choice. The countryside had never truly been safe. It only looked that way. Anna had always known this. Isolation protected from some things, but exposed people to others. When someone wanted to disappear, it was easy. When someone wanted to find you, persistence was enough. And now, they were persistent. The morning after that restless night, Anna sensed it before John said anything. The silence had changed its tone. It wasn't the usual countryside quiet. It was alert, as if the air itself was waiting for something to happen. Lucas noticed it too. "Someone's watching," he whispered, pretending to tie his shoe. John felt a chill run down his spine. "We're down there near the bend in the road." John took a breath before looking. A car was parked, engine on, waiting inside. John said. Now Anna didn't argue. She grabbed Tiago's hand. Lucas followed close behind. They shut the door. The simple sound of wood closing felt too loud. John leaned against the wall, trying to think fast. For the first time since the accident, his memory was clear enough to understand the danger. This wasn't journalistic curiosity. It was pressure. And pressure never mixed well with simple people. "They won't come in," Anna said, trying to stay calm. "Not yet." John nodded. "But they'll be back." The car stayed there for long minutes. Then it slowly drove away. Tiago began to cry quietly. "I don't like this," he said, burying his face in his mother's dress. Anna held him tightly. Lucas looked at John, serious beyond his years. "You promised," he said. "You promised you wouldn't put us at risk." John felt the weight of those words like a punch. "And I won't," he replied. "That's why I'm leaving." Anna closed her eyes for a moment, even expecting it. It hurt when she asked. "As soon as possible," John said, "before this gets worse." Lucas turned his face away, trying to hide his frustration. Everyone always leaves when things get hard. John stepped closer. "I'm not leaving because it's hard," he said firmly. "I'm leaving because you matter." Lucas didn't answer, but something in his expression shifted. That afternoon, John packed quietly. Few clothes, no personal objects, nothing that left traces. Anna prepared dinner like always, simple food, automatic movements. But her hands trembled slightly. They sat at the table. No one spoke much. After Tiago fell asleep, Lucas stayed awake, sitting near the door. "You're really coming back?" he asked bluntly. John sat beside him. "I don't know when," he answered honestly, "but I know I don't want to disappear from your lives." Lucas took a deep breath. "Then don't disappear," he said. "Just disappear from nearby." John's eyes filled. That night, Anna called John outside. The sky was clear. The stars felt closer. "There's something I never asked you," she said. "Why? Why? What? Why did you stay?" John thought for a long moment. "Because here, no one asked anything from me except honesty," he replied. "And I needed to learn that." Anna nodded. "Then learn it all the way," she said. "Don't run again." John breathed deeply. "I won't run," he said. "I'll choose." Before dawn, John left. No noise, no long goodbyes. No exaggerated promises. Anna stood in the doorway holding Tiago. Lucas stayed a few steps back, silent. When the car disappeared around the bend, Anna felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Not abandonment, responsibility. She knew the story wasn't over. It had only changed shape. John drove 4 hours without turning on the radio. The engine noise was enough. Every mile felt like it was pulling something out of him. Not nostalgia, responsibility. He knew leaving was necessary. That didn't make it lighter. The city appeared slowly on the horizon, too loud, too big, too indifferent. Buildings replaced trees. Lights replaced stars. People replaced silence. John felt the shock immediately. It wasn't longing for the countryside. It was estrangement from himself. At a gas station, something simple became clear. No one recognized him. For the first time in a long while, that didn't bother him. But it didn't comfort him either. He thought of Anna, of how she never asked for help, but accepted presence. Of Lucas, serious far too early. Of Tiago, who still believed adults told the truth. The guilt didn't come as accusation. It came as a question. What are you going to do now that you know? When he reached the city, John didn't go home. He went to the hospital. He needed to close the cycle of the accident. To come forward, to face the consequences of who he had been. Recognition was immediate. Lingering looks, whispers, urgent calls. "Mr. John, where have you been?" He answered calmly, learning how to be human. Meetings followed. Conversations he once dominated now felt hollow. He listened more, spoke less. "You've changed," someone said. John didn't deny it. At night, alone in an apartment too large, guilt returned. Not for leaving, for having taken so long to learn. He realized something painful. He had been absent long before he disappeared. The accident didn't create distance, it revealed it. That night, unable to sleep, he opened a window. The city noise rushed in. He thought, if I go back the same way, there's no point in going back. And he made a decision. It wouldn't be enough to help with money, or projects, or occasional visits. He needed to change the logic of his life. The next morning, he canceled appointments and reduced his role in the company. "That will cost you," they warned. "Everything costs," he replied, "including not changing." The guilt began to turn into direction. He wasn't ready to return yet, but he would never again be someone who simply walked away. The countryside did not announce danger. It revealed it quietly. Anna sensed it the morning after John left, not through sound, not through sight, but through absence. The air felt different, heavier, as if something unresolved had settled into the land. She moved through her routine with precision, refusing to let fear dictate her actions. Water, firewood, food. The order remained intact. If she let the structure collapse, everything else would follow. Lucas noticed. "You didn't sleep," he said while tying his boots. "I did," Anna replied, "just not deeply." Lucas accepted that answer, the way he accepted most things, now with awareness rather than comfort. Tiago stayed close, his small hand brushing against Anna's dress as she worked. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. Children sense shifts long before adults name them. By midday, the signs returned. A vehicle slowed near the curve, stopped, waited too long. Anna watched from the window, her expression neutral. Lucas stood beside her. That's not someone lost, he said. No, Anna replied. That's someone looking. The vehicle left, but the silence it left behind felt intentional. Anna gathered the boys inside. We're staying close today, she said. Lucas nodded. Tiago frowned. Did I do something wrong? Anna knelt in front of him. No, she said gently. Sometimes the world just gets loud, even when it doesn't sound like it. That afternoon, a man approached the fence. He didn't cross it, he didn't call out, he waited. Anna stepped outside, her posture calm but alert. Can I help you? She asked. The man smiled politely. I'm looking for someone, he said. We don't get many visitors, Anna replied. I know, the man said. That's why I'm here. Lucas watched from the doorway, fists clenched. The man asked careful questions about travelers, about accidents, about anyone new in the area. Anna answered only what was true and only what was necessary. No, she said. No, she repeated. No, she said again. Eventually the man left, but he didn't look disappointed. That night, Anna didn't light the lamp right away. They ate in low light, speaking little. Lucas finally broke the silence. He's not gone, he said. Not really. Anna nodded. I know. Tiago looked between them. Is John coming back? The question hung in the air. Anna chose her words carefully. John has things to finish, she said. So do we. Lucas understood what she didn't say. That night, Lucas couldn't sleep. He replayed every conversation, every look, every moment John had stood between them and something unknown. He realized something that made his chest tighten. John hadn't left to save himself. He had left to protect them. That understanding didn't bring comfort. It brought responsibility. Before dawn, Lucas stepped outside alone. The sky was pale, the land quiet. He didn't hear the vehicle until it was close. Too close, a car stopped near the fence. Lucas froze. The window rolled down. Hey, a voice called. You live here? Lucas didn't answer. The voice tried again, softer. We're just asking around. Anna appeared behind Lucas instantly, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. Yes, she said. We live here. The man studied them. We're looking for someone who might have passed through. No one did, Anna replied. The man smiled thinly. People don't always notice. Anna met his gaze without flinching. We notice everything. Double quotes. The man held the stare for a long moment. Then he nodded. Have a good day. The car drove away. Anna locked the door. Her hands shook, not from fear, but from certainty. This was escalating. She sat the boys down. Listen to me, she said calmly. If anyone comes asking questions again, you say nothing. You come to me immediately. Do you understand? Lucas nodded. Tiago nodded too, though he didn't fully understand. That afternoon, Anna made a decision she had avoided for years. She called for help, not authorities, people, neighbors she trusted, quiet allies who understood discretion better than systems. By nightfall, the property was no longer alone. Lights appeared in distant houses. Movement felt intentional. Anna stood on the porch, watching the dark. She thought of John. She wondered if he knew how close the world had come, and she wondered whether she would ever forgive him if this ended badly. Late that night, a message arrived. Not a call. A message from an unknown number. We know you helped him. Anna stared at the screen, heart pounding. Lucas saw it. He's in trouble, he said. Anna nodded. Yes, she replied. And so are we. She didn't panic. She didn't cry. She made another choice. She typed a reply. You're too late. Then she turned off the phone. The decision was made. Whatever happened next, they would not be silent. They would not disappear. And they would not be afraid. John did not turn on the radio. He didn't want voices filling the space where his thoughts needed room. The road stretched ahead of him in long, quiet lines, and each mile felt like a decision already made and not yet accepted. He drove until the countryside gave way to outskirts, and the outskirts folded into streets that carried more light than sky. Billboards replaced trees, traffic replaced wind. The world he remembered, at least in fragments, began to assert itself again. He felt no relief, only distance. At the first stoplight, he noticed his hands. They were different now, calloused, scarred, marked by work that left the proof. He turned them over slowly on the steering wheel, remembering how they used to be smooth, clean, protected from friction by layers of privilege and delegation. He let the light turn green twice before moving. When he finally reached the city, he did not go home. He went to the hospital. It was the right place to begin telling the truth. Inside, everything smelled like antiseptic and control. White walls, quiet shoes, monitors humming with measured certainty. The receptionist recognized him before he said his name. Her eyes widened not with excitement, but with surprise. You're alive, she said. Yes, John replied, and I need to be recorded as such. The process unfolded quickly, questions forms. A doctor who examined him carefully, pausing when he saw the healing pattern of his injuries. You should have been here sooner, the doctor said. I know, John answered. I wasn't ready. The doctor didn't argue. News moved faster than John did. By the time he left the hospital, messages had already stacked up. Missed calls multiplied. Names appeared on his screen that belonged to people who expected immediate access. He ignored them. Instead, he sat in his car and allowed the guilt to arrive fully. It wasn't sharp, it was steady. It asked questions rather than accusing him. What had he abandoned before the accident? Who had learned to live without him while he was still breathing? How many times had absence been easier than presence? He drove past his old building without stopping. He didn't trust himself yet. That night he stayed in a hotel room that felt impersonal by design. Neutral colors, heavy curtains, silence engineered rather than earned. Sleep came poorly. Dreams returned not of the accident, but of meetings that never ended, of conversations he had dominated, of moments when listening would have changed everything. In the morning, he made his first call, not to the board, not to the press, not to his family. He called his assistant. "I'm alive," he said, "but I'm not returning the same way." There was a pause. "What does that mean?" she asked carefully. "It means cancel what can be canceled, delay what can wait, and tell them I'll speak when I'm ready." Silence. "Some people won't like that," she said. "I know," John replied. "They never did." He spent the day walking, not through office towers, but through streets where people moved without knowing who he was, where no one stepped aside, where no one expected decisions from him. He watched faces. He noticed how often people looked past one another, how quickly impatience surfaced, how rarely silence was tolerated. By evening, he felt more exhausted than any day in the field. The exhaustion was different. It came from awareness. He went to his apartment late. The space greeted him with echoes, furniture arranged for appearance, not use, windows that framed views but never opened to air. He stood in the doorway for a long time. This place had held his body, not his life. He sat at the table and let the guilt settle where it belonged, not as punishment, as instruction. He began making decisions, small ones, deliberate ones. He postponed meetings indefinitely. He delegated authority he had once hoarded. He removed himself from operations that thrived on urgency rather than impact. Calls came in waves. "You're disappearing again," someone accused. "No," John replied. "I'm staying just, not everywhere." That night he thought of Anna. He imagined her standing firm, children close, eyes steady. He thought of Lucas's warning, "Don't disappear." Honestly, he understood now. Honesty required consequence. It required choosing a direction that would not flatter him. The next morning, he made the call he had avoided the longest home. His wife answered on the third ring. There was no relief in her voice, only distance earned over years. "You're alive," she said. "Yes." Silence. "I didn't know how to come back," he said. "I know," she replied. "You never did." The truth landed without cruelty. They spoke for a long time, not to repair everything, but to stop pretending it hadn't broken long ago. When the call ended, John felt lighter, not forgiven, clear. He knew then that returning to the countryside would not erase what he had left behind, but it could define what he would build next. And for the first time, he felt ready to choose the harder path, not because it redeemed him, but because it aligned him. John did not announce his return. There was no press release, no prepared statement, no carefully staged appearance meant to reassure investors or control the narrative. He simply arrived. His presence alone disrupted routines that had learned to function without him. Assistants froze when they saw him walk through the building. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Eyes followed him with a mixture of relief, suspicion, and expectation. John noticed everything. But he no longer reacted the way he once had. He didn't demand explanations. He didn't reclaim authority by force. He didn't raise his voice. He listened. Meetings that once stretched endlessly now ended quickly, not because decisions were rushed, but because vanity was no longer tolerated. "What does this solve?" he asked often. "Who does this affect? Why is this urgent?" Many had no answers. Some resented him for it. "You've changed," one executive said, not as an observation, but an accusation. "Yes," John replied. "I hope so." The company adjusted slowly, reluctantly. Systems built around his constant availability resisted independence. Authority redistributed unevenly at first. Then, with growing clarity, John allowed discomfort. Growth required it. Outside that world, life in the countryside continued. Anna did not wait. She repaired what needed repair. She leaned on neighbors when necessary. She taught the boys vigilance without fear. Lucas became sharper, not colder, clearer. He noticed patterns. He learned how to read people the way he once read absence. He stopped waiting for rescue and started preparing for reality. Tiago grew quieter for a while. He missed John openly, without shame. "Do you think he remembers us?" he asked once. Anna answered carefully. "People remember what changes them," she said. Tiago nodded, satisfied. Months passed. John kept distance deliberately, not to avoid responsibility, but to avoid control. He understood now that help imposed often erased dignity. Instead, he paid attention. When heavy rains damaged the dirt road, he didn't announce a project. He made a call. Materials arrived. Workers came quietly. No signs carried his name. When the school closed temporarily due to lack of supplies, boxes appeared without explanation. Anna noticed. "This doesn't happen by accident," she said. Lucas watched the road. "It's him," he said. Not with excitement, with recognition. John returned to the countryside without spectacle. A simple vehicle. No entourage. No urgency. He stopped at the edge of the property and waited. Anna approached first. "You didn't warn us," she said. "I didn't want to assume," John replied. She studied him carefully. "You didn't come to stay," she said. "No," he answered. "I came to take responsibility." They spoke without raised voices, without accusation, without illusion. John explained what he was doing in the city, not to justify himself, but to be transparent. Anna listened. Lucas listened from a distance. Tiago ran to John without hesitation. "You came back," he said, stating a fact rather than celebrating it. "Yes," John replied. "I did." The tension wasn't resolved. It was acknowledged. John didn't stay long. He worked alongside others, fixed what he could with his own hands, spoke when necessary, stayed silent when silence was better. Before leaving, Anna spoke plainly. "You're not a guest," she said, "but you're not family either." John nodded. "That's fair." Lucas approached him. "You didn't disappear," the boy said. "No," John replied. "That matters." John left that day knowing something important. He hadn't repaired anything completely, but he had changed the direction of the damage, and sometimes that was the most honest kind of repair. That night, back in the city, John felt the weight of both worlds pressing against him. He understood that balance was not comfort. It was commitment, and commitment demanded consistency long after emotion faded. Time did not rush to resolve anything. It never does. Instead, it moved forward the way it always had, quietly, steadily, without concern for whether people were ready. And in that movement, it reshaped everyone involved, not through dramatic turns, but through accumulation. John learned that change was not a moment, it was repetition. In the city, his life reorganized itself slowly. The company adapted not into something softer, but into something more deliberate. Decisions took longer. Voices multiplied. Silence became acceptable. Some left, others stayed and changed with it. John no longer filled every space. He stopped measuring his worth by urgency. He allowed others to lead, to fail, to learn. The work continued, but it no longer consumed him. He divided his time with intention. City, countryside, distance without disappearance. In the countryside, Anna's life found a different rhythm, not easier, but steadier. She accepted help now without feeling diminished by it. Not because she needed rescue, but because partnership no longer felt like risk. She still woke before the sun, still counted supplies, still watched the road, but she no longer believed she had to do everything alone to remain whole. Lucas grew taller, stronger, quieter in a different way. He never called John father. He never needed to. What mattered was consistency. John showed up when he said he would. He left honestly when he had to leave. He did not confuse presence with control. Lucas learned something rare, that men could fail and still choose responsibility afterward. That lesson shaped him more than any apology could have. Tiago grew with fewer questions about abandonment. He remembered John not as someone who arrived dramatically, but as someone who stayed correctly, in fragments, in patterns, in truth. Years passed. The road was repaired permanently. The school expanded. Opportunities appeared not because someone was saved, but because someone had stopped ignoring reality. One afternoon, much later, John stood again at the edge of the property. Anna joined him. The land looked the same. They were not. "You didn't disappear again," she said. "No," John replied. "I learned not to." She nodded. "That's rare." They stood in silence for a while. Lucas approached, now almost a man. "I'm leaving next month," he said. Anna stiffened slightly. "School," Lucas added quickly. John smiled softly. "That's good," he said. Lucas met his eyes. "I'm not afraid of leaving," he said. "I'm afraid of leaving wrong." John understood the weight of that. "You already know how to stay," he replied. "That's the hard part." Tiago ran past them, laughing, chasing something invisible. Anna watched him. "Do you think he remembers how close we came to losing everything?" she asked. John shook his head. "No," he said. "And that's the point later, alone." John was asked in an interview one he almost declined what had happened during the months he disappeared. He thought carefully before answering. "I didn't disappear," he said. "I was stripped of what distracted me." The interviewer pressed, "And what did you find?" John paused. that the world doesn't change when powerful people fall, he said. It changes when ordinary people choose not to look away. Few truly understood, but those who needed to felt it. Anna, standing in her doorway one evening, watching her children walk a road that no longer collapsed under rain, understood something quietly. That night on the road hadn't saved a man. It had redirected lives, because sometimes everything changes, not when someone arrives loudly, but when someone learns how to stay differently.